Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Cameroon soon to begin the production of drugs that will be used in the treatment of COVID-19 patients. The head of state has ordered the production of two drugs that will be used for the production of for the treatment of COVID-19 patients in the country, and we'll also talk about the building that collapsed today in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, and left several persons wounded in this newscast. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in this edition of the news on Equinoxe Television. We begin with news on the COVID-19. The Republic of Cameroon continues with its efforts to stop the spread of COVID-19, while the government measures to prevent the spread of coronavirus are being intensified. The President of the Republic has ordered the production of two drugs that will be used for the fight against COVID-19, for the treatment of COVID-19 patients in the Republic of Cameroon, azithromycin, and another drug that will be produced by the Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation. Now take a listen to what some medics have been saying about the use of chloroquine and the treatment for the treatment of COVID-19 patients in Cameroon. Dr. Ndifo Peter Louis, medical doctor and Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General of the Cameroon Medical Council, and Professor Sobngui Eugene, who is an endocrinologist and Professor of Endocrinology at the University of Yaoundé, one consultant endocrinologist at the Yaoundé Central Hospital, and African fellow of the African Academy of Science, said to Equinoxe Television in the Inside.
And azithromycin have significant effects on the coronavirus. And Professor Didier Raoult carried out a study, and out of all his patients that he took care of, only one patient died.
Yes, some of our patients received chloroquine. Yes, but that was not all. It was really like 10% or even 5% of all what we had to do. Yes. Some of the patients are receiving 5 different types of medications at the same time. You have patients in whom you give only one type of treatment. You have patients in whom you give no tablet. I must emphasize on the fact that we have hard days ahead. We should be prepared.
The director of the World Health Organization said Africa should prepare for the worst.
I don't buy the worst because we are fighting against the worst. I don't buy the worst, but because we are fighting against it. But we get what he is trying to tell us, that we should wake up. Yes, we should be very careful. Yes, it is a severe thing. We are fighting. As healthcare professionals, let me tell you, I tell my colleagues in the hospital, you should keep fit. You should pray, you should exercise, you should eat well, because the days ahead are likely to be very tough days. We need to be physically ready to face what is likely to happen. And our population need to understand that it's a very, I won't say tough period that may happen, that may occur if nothing is done. The reason why we should not even wait until the government tells us you have to do this or you have to do that before we start being very careful.
Dr. Ndifo Peter Louis, Deputy Secretary General of the Cameroon Medical Council, and Professor Eugene Sobngui, who is an endocrinologist, Professor of Endocrinology at the University of Yaoundé, one consultant endocrinologist at the Yaoundé Central Hospital, and a fellow of the African Academy of Science, speaking there. And the head of state, as I said earlier, has ordered the production of hydroxychloroquine and oxythromycin that will be produced by the Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation, and these 2 drugs will be used in the fight against COVID-19, in the treatment of COVID-19 patients in the Republic of Cameroon. In the meantime, preventive measures being emphasized by public authorities, emphasizing on the respect of the sanitation rules of the World Health Organization and the measures put in place by the government of Cameroon to prevent the spread of coronavirus in the country. And one of those measures is the wearing of face mask. In the report coming up next, Suman Gebre talked to a medical expert who explains the characteristics of a good and acceptable, medically acceptable face mask that should be used by the population.
With the advent of the coronavirus in Cameroon, health officials have been advising that the population should put on face masks. Cameroonians are now faced to make a choice between the medical face mask and that which is locally made.
The mask is necessary, and any mask can do, because the molecule of the coronavirus is large enough that it cannot pass through any simple mask. Like the disposable ones that are available now, that we use, for example, one I'm putting on now, the virus cannot pass either from someone opposite you to you, or from you to the one opposite you. It cannot pass through.
With the scarcity of the medical face mask in pharmacies, many Cameroonians have fallen for the locally made.
The advice we give is that they should use locally prepared material for mask. The most important thing is that your nose and your mouth is protected. And a clean piece of cloth, as I said at the beginning, can do it. You don't need to go to the market to get a clean piece of cloth. Just a loin. You take a loin and you clean it, you wash it well and dry it. You can cut a piece of it and it becomes a mask for you. It will still protect you as anything.
But what are the qualities of a good face mask?
A good quality mask is, let me just say, any material that is clean. When I say material, any piece of fabric can do. In some cases, like you see this one that we're using like this, paper napkin that we use during meals, that can do. And just like the piece of paper I have in my hand here, you take that paper and you fold it well, and then you put stuff at the end here, this end and this rubber band can do it. You will still put it in your mouth, that will protect you. If you take a piece of cloth which is clean and you cut it to a size that can cover your mouth, and you put things on it that can tie you, it will protect you. So anything that can cover your nose and your mouth will prevent that virus from passing into you or going out to another person.
Many have been asking for how long a mask could be used.
The highest you can use a mask is within 24 hours. For us in the medical domain, we use mask as per the procedure that we are carrying out. After the procedure, we change the mask, because obviously some bacteria must have come into contact with the mask and we need to change it. But it is important that when you are leaving your house to get somewhere out of your house, you put a mask on. When you are entering into a place where there are many people, you have a mask on. Except when you are alone, you can breathe freely when you are alone. But if you are going to be exposed to people, you have to put on a mask.
One of the important advice from the government to Cameroonians have been to cover their nose and their mouth whenever they leave their homes.
Manjikan Gabriel reporting the latest information from the Ministry of Public Health of the Republic of Cameroon on the coronavirus pandemic in the Republic of Cameroon indicates that out of all the confirmed positive cases, we currently have only 49 hospitalized cases, 17 cases on oxygen and or simple non-invasive ventilation, and about 15 people have just carried out a control test, and interested parties can return home this evening. This is information from the country's Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malachi. And still on the COVID-19, Dr. Manauda Malachi, Minister of Public Health of Cameroon, indicates that within the context of the massive COVID-19 screening in the town of Douala in the littoral region of the country. 80,366 homes have been visited by health personnel, and 198,640 persons have been evaluated, and over that is with a percentage of response, positive response of 85.2 against 14.8% of rejection from the population. 2,313 persons have been, their samples have been taken. Samples have been taken from 2,313 persons, and the operation continues. Now, coming up next, we talk about actions against COVID-19, the fight against COVID-19 on the African continent. Innocent.
Fears the coronavirus might spread easily and rapidly in detention facilities. Several African nations continue releasing inmates to decongest prisons as a response strategy to limit spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. After Ethiopian government pardoned more than 4,000 detainees on March 24, 2020, other African countries emulated the example. Libya in North Africa freed more than 450 prisoners from correctional facilities in Tripoli. They were on pre-trial detention or had qualified for conditional release. Morocco, seriously hit by the pandemic, also responded immediately to the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet's advice to reduce prison populations. The North African country took this step and freed about 5,654 prisoners to slow coronavirus spread. They were selected based in their age, health, good conduct, and the length of detention. This decision was reached as the COVID-19 killed 66 people and infected 960 in Morocco by April 5, 2020. Kenya in East Africa freed at least 4,800 inmates in different parts of the country. Many of the sessions leading to their release were held virtually through Skype and Zoom. The Republic of Cameroon and other African countries with overcrowded prisons are yet to embrace this initiative. Apart from decongesting prisons and instituting lockdowns by some African countries against the COVID-19 spread, other nations in the continent, as supplies of face masks dwindle globally, create fabric face masks quickly for those in need. Ghanaians, including Cameroonians and others, are producing theirs deemed washable. In Cameroon, some regional administrative authorities had announced wearing of face masks will be mandatory in their regions. These are officials whose cities or regions are severely threatened by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now to the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, and we're talking something else now. A building collapsed today in the Monte Obili neighborhood, Monte Chapelle Obili neighborhood, and several persons were wounded in that incident that occurred today. And we are having some information streaming indicating that some persons might have died in that incident. Some persons are feared dead in that incident which occurred today at Monte Chapelle Obili in Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé, where a building collapsed. We'll be coming back to that information in greater details in a subsequent news editions. And the key highlights of the presidential plan for the reconstruction of the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon have been presented, and according to the coordinator of that reconstruction plan, Paul Tasson, Minister Delegate at the Ministry of Economic Planning and Regional Development, 12,000 private houses, 350 schools and 115 health centers will be reconstructed in the two crisis-hit regions, and we should indicate that as we speak, the violence, kidnapping of persons and other atrocities have still been committed in those two regions within the framework of the more than 3-year-long Anglophone crisis, and they have been persistent calls for the demilitarization of the two Anglophone regions of the country, for the release of all arrested and detained within the context of the Anglophone crisis, and other measures that could open the way out of the crisis after the major national dialogue which took place in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, bringing together persons from different walks of life from within and out of the country to discuss solutions to the Anglophone crisis. The situation has continued persisting, and people are still being kidnapped, people are still being killed, houses are still being burnt down in those two parts of the country. For me, Armstrong Santa has more.
Talking to the press after his appointment to head the presidential plan to reconstruct and develop the northwest and southwest regions, abbreviated as the PPRD, Minister Paul Tasson outlined what the government of Cameroon plans to do in order to catch up the delayed development of the war-torn northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. In his capacity as coordinator of the PPRD, Minister Paul Tasson said the project will see the reconstruction of some 12,000 destroyed private houses, 115 health centers, 350 schools, 400 water points, 40 bridges, 500 kilometers of low-tension power lines, 600 kilometers of rural roads, and 45 markets in the English-speaking northwest and southwest regions. According to the government minister, the over 3 years war has retarded the economic growth of the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, noted for the production of coffee, cocoa, maize, cassava, fish, livestock, potatoes, plantains, beans, vegetables, yams and bananas. Regretting that the southwest, for example, moved from the first to the second cocoa producer in Cameroon because of the Anglophone crisis, Minister Paul Tasson revealed that about some 25,000 kilometers of farmlands needed attention in the northwest and southwest regions, highlighting that the priority projects were designed based on data collected by the two regional governors. Paul Tasson said the statistics could be upgraded, as a lot has happened even after the data was collected. Paul Tasson also revealed that the project will be financed by the government of Cameroon and many financial partners who've shown interest in the initiative. He also disclosed that the presidential plan to reconstruct the war-torn northwest and southwest regions is different from the government of Cameroon's humanitarian assistance plan for the northwest and the southwest regions.
Talking Point is up next. Thanks for joining us in Talking Points. We're going to be analyzing government's reconstruction plan for the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and we're receiving a legal mind, Barrister Tamfo Richard, member of the Cameroon and Nigerian Bar Associations. You're welcome, Barrister.
Thank you, Mr. Babila, for inviting me. Pleasure is all mine.
First, COVID-19, a global health challenge, a pandemic that is affecting almost all the continents of the world and leaving hundreds and even thousands of people dead on daily basis around the world. The management of COVID-19 in Cameroon, what do you think about all the efforts that the government has been making this far to curb the spread of COVID-19?
Well, we are all facing a very serious sanitary crisis, which calls the attention of all the countries in the world, and Cameroon is of no difference. But what I am tempted to say is that it is as if we have not yet taken the gravity of the situation or of that crisis in Cameroon, because the measures which are being put in place by the government are not being practical on the field. When you move around the streets of the town, you will see people going on with their activities as if nothing is happening. The government itself is though it is doing in a minimal way, creating awareness over it on the various public channels that we have, and the sensitization which is being made on the field, but it necessitates some accompanying measures, because we can't have a serious crisis like this one, which in other countries we have seen how some people have confined themselves maybe for weeks to see how the pandemic evolves and to see how they can put forth some strategic efforts to fight it. But here in Cameroon, they will tell you, no, you have to wash your hands, you have to maintain distance, you have to go out when necessary, but some people are still going out. So it is as if we are saying something and then doing the contrary. You can't ask people to stay home when you have not given accompanying measures. You can't ask people to be washing hands when we all know that the taps of recent, there's a communique that was issued by Camwater, who is saying that the cables have been burnt, that there will not be water supply for some days. And you ask people to wear masks when you yourself, you know how some people have taken the current situation to make their pockets big. A mask which to cost 100 francs today is 900 francs. How many Cameroonians will afford that, when we all know that the minimum average salary is less than 40,000 francs? So tell me how an ordinary Cameroonian will be able to put in place all those measures that the government is putting in place to fight against this virus.
So there's need for incentives.
There is need for a harmonization of all the actors who are of free will or who are giving their initiative in fighting this crisis. We should leave the politics aside. We have seen civil societies organizing themselves. We have seen political leaders organizing themselves. We have seen the government putting in place a plan. All those independent initiatives should instead come as one. Instead of like trying to fight this, fight that, the government discourages others that no, she's the one. We are instead fighting on the money that has been contributed. It's as if the lives of people has no issue. What is of interest is to know who will coordinate what, and at this time, I don't think that's what we need. The civil society ought to be invited. The government has to permit political parties and well-wishers to come together. Let's fight this common enemy that is invisible.
Today, Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph John Kute received some political parties and some religious groups at the Prime Ministry in Yaoundé today, who brought in their own contributions. In the meantime, there are some politicians and parties who are doing fundraising, or who have put in place initiatives to do fundraising alongside. And what the Ministry of Territorial Administration is condemning is that they are violating the law. They are not doing it within the legal framework governing such an activity during this period of crisis, during a period of crisis like what we are living now.
Mr. Babel, if we want to go into the legalities of what you just said, you will see that even the government itself did not have, we represent the administration, did not seek for any authorization. The law should not be applied to some and doesn't apply to others. Or the law should not be in such a form that...
The government or the head of state? Is the head of state who created the Solidarity Fund?
He has created a Solidarity Fund to be implemented by the government, which is a public structure.
So the head of state should have asked for authorization from the Ministry of Territorial Administration?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So the government itself has not done the proper thing. And we have seen other situations where people have called for public generosity. Nothing has been said. This is not the time to me, even if, let's put it, because if I have to enter into the legality, I'll be defending my own point, the others will be defending theirs. Even if that was the case, I think it was best for the communique of the ministry to instead invite those people in a friendly way than giving it a ultimatum as if it is repressive. So to me, be it the government, I don't think they have taken the proper stage. Be it the political parties or the people who are calling for public generosity, if they have violated any of the texts, I think it was high time for us to reconcile all those people and then bring them on a single table for us to see what can be done. than instead of fighting to know who used the legal way and who didn't use the legal way. We are in an emergency health situation, and I think it's not something which we have to be playing politics with it.
Whatever the case, we cannot confirm whether the head of state asked for authorization from the Ministry of Territorial Administration before creating the Solidarity Fund or not. But there are some persons who are thinking. A legal man was talking to me yesterday, and he said that if Cabral Libi called for fundraising during the presidential election, and people raised money from across the country and from outside, from abroad, and gave him to run his campaign and so on and so forth. And then if we are asking for the liberation of prisoners today, which is against the law, then the law can be abrogated, the law can be kept aside for the interests of human beings, for the interests of the fighting the common enemy. What do you think about that?
Yes, it's very correct, because we should first of all understand that we are talking about human lives. And I think sovereignty rests on the people. We are facing a serious threat to your existence. And I think that if we were in a serious country like in other, this is the time that you expect the head of state to declare a state of emergency. During this atmosphere of an emergency, so many things can be taken without us respecting the law, because there is that necessity, there is that need. And if people have taken private initiatives to bring in their efforts, like what we saw when the Aya Foundation, that some political party raised humanitarian assistance to the Aya Foundation, nobody talked about it. For Mr. Cabral, that's even where I thought that maybe the government will step on it and put an end to it, because that was for his political party, which is against the law, clearly stated. But it didn't call for any attention. So we should not be doing politics targeting a particular, especially at this very critical stage of our lives, that we are faced with an enemy which can destroy at any time. We are seeing the trend of deaths as it is happening in other. Imagine a situation that it just tries to happen here. All the prisoners will die. Not even those who are outside are safe. So I think this is time for us to create more awareness and sensitization over this epidemic that is really killing us.
The Director General of the World Health Organization, responding to U.S. President Donald Trump, who talked about a reduction, possible reduction of contributions for the functioning of the organization, said he called for unity and said that we should stop politicizing the COVID-19. And that is exactly what you're talking about now. The reconstruction plan of the President of the Republic for the Northwest and Southwest regions of the country. What's your take on that reconstruction plan and the timing?
Mr. Babila, we in our government, we do things in an upside down manner. We can't be talking, the initiative is laudable. Yes, we have to reconstruct those regions, but we should not be putting the cats before the horse. We all know that the assistance, war is still a current event in those two regions. Markets or houses are being burnt. We have not yet gained the peace that we used to have. The government has not called for any ceasefire. You are thinking of reconstructing or allocating the budget to reconstruct those regions. Yes, it is true. But how will you be constructing them when people are still in a fire exchange? It can't be possible. And that's much money that the government is now trying to keep. When we have a humanitarian crisis, we don't even have money. I'm even wondering where the budget of that project is going to come. I think the government should first of all be thinking now or striving to see how do we put an end to that crisis. Today we are seeing the economic damages that it has caused. We have seen the number of deaths that have gone of something or of a crisis that we could use few seconds to treat it. We will not be wasting or budgeting for money to reconstruct or assist in humanitarian issues of which we don't even have that money. To me, the government is putting the cart before the horse.
When the Disarmament, Demobilization, Reintegration Committee led by Governor Fayengo Francis, former governor, was created, many were saying that this commission, the creation is not timely. because the war should end first, and then a commission can be created to disarm the fighters, to demobilize the fighters, to reintegrate the fighters into the normal life trend. But the commission has been existing for several months today, and it has succeeded to an extent to disarm some of the fighters, to bring some of them out of the bushes, according to the information that the government and the other authorities are presenting to us. Is it the reconstruction plan, is it not in the same vein going
Mr. Babila, all the efforts or all the, I can say, cosmetic measures put forth by the government, all those commissions have created nothing since 4 years today. Be it the disarmament commission that was created, be it the bilingualism commission that came, be it the grand national dialogue that happened, it has not solved the problem when we know where the problem is. So reconstruction of those structures in a phase where you still have guns shooting from both sides, places are being burnt, you can't be talking about reconstruction. Why don't we sit for a while, raising that, okay, we have created all these commissions, and to me, if we are objective and in our judgment, we'll see that all of those commissions have saved nothing, because if they were really effective, we should be living in a peaceful environment that we used to have. But all those commissions have helped nobody. So the government should instead do what is right, if it is really serious in putting an end. And you agree with me that on several invitations that have been here, I've told you that there are some people who are very happy seeing this crisis perduring, because they are making a lot of economic gain. So all the initiatives that people are putting forth to put an end to this crisis is being brushed out, because that is not their objective. They want the war to continue. People are interested in the appointments and the powers that they are seeking, so that when they put forth some money to them, they'll see how to embezzle it.
Are you referring to government?
Yes, I'm referring to the government, because the government has not done what was proper since the outbreak of this crisis. Since today, 4 years, the government should be seen from itself that all the efforts we have made, all the measures we have put in place have not yielded any fruits, because we have not done the right thing. Instead of using the avenues that could put an end to this crisis, the government has shifted away from it. So, talking about reconstructing those two regions at this present time, when we don't even have money to take care for a sanitary crisis, gives me to wonder, what are we doing?
The leaders of that commission are all Anglophones from the northwest and the southwest.
I don't have a particular issue with the leaders of the...
Paul Tasson.
I don't have a particular problem with the leaders who have been appointed or the personalities who have been appointed. My problem is the put in place of that plan, which is not coming at a proper time. Yes, you have appointed them, but you say how can you be sending them to go and maybe request the services of architects when you yourself cannot even reach there at this time? So the war is still there. The crisis is still a living event. So I don't think we should be talking about reconstruction now.
The Minister of Employment and Vocational Training, Minister Issa Chiruma Bakare, in La Vérité en Face said government is unable to construct the Baba-Jubamenda road because of security challenges. And now government wants to go and reconstruct the roads leading to, Kambe, in the Bamenda town, leading to Mbengui, leading to Akwaya, wants to go and reconstruct Kwakwa and all those places and the hospitals and so on. Probably the military will be put in contribution with the civil engineering arm of the military.
What is killing our country, Mr. Babala, is poor governance. It is not as if we don't have the ideas or the best initiatives. It's just that we have a very poor and bad system of governance that, yes, the minister said it was impossible. Today, we are saying that no, we can do it. I'm wondering, when the authorities even go to those localities, you see them with helmets and bulletproofs, because they themselves, they know that armored cars. They themselves, they know, they're conscious that something can happen. Okay, who will be doing the constructions? The people will come from where? Who will supervise them? Or will they sit in their own day and be constructing? So I think we should be thinking of bringing a long-lasting peace in those two regions. Encourage the efforts of people of goodwill who are close to this crisis, that they know they can put an end to it, and also look at all the measures that have been referred to them on several occasions to follow to put an end to this crisis.
The government authorities will probably indicate that for now they will be working out of the crisis zones, strategizing on how to go about while working for the peace to return in those areas and so on. That will be, building up the whole project before the execution phase.
Mr. Building is not sitting in an office and writing a letter. I think if you have to build, you have to be on the field. You have to look at the execution of the plan, of the construction plan. It's not something that you sit in the office, you write your letter, or you see it happening. I don't know. So to me, I think you cannot be building from Yaoundé. It's impossible. If you have to build, you have to be on the spot to supervise the construction that are ongoing. So if we are serious in the reconstruction plans, which to me is laudable, because we have seen how the crisis has brought those two regions to zero, it is welcomed. But now we should be thinking, is that plan going to be feasible, or can we realize it with the present situation? To me, I say no, it isn't, because those two regions are still at war, and we have not yet had a ceasefire. People are still shooting, so I don't see that plan to yield any fruit as of now.
We have said it on several occasions, but I will still ask you the question. Apart from the ceasefire, which you just mentioned, what are some of the urgent measures that can be taken now, and the guns go down in the northwest and southwest regions? The guns stop talking, the houses, no burning, and so on.
Mr. Babele, you know that as time perdues, people changes minds. When this crisis was still in its very first days, I thought that if we were very logical in our resolving of a crisis, instead of creating those commissions, the head of state could have even used the president of the Ambazonians, which is government, look for a neutral ground. He knows they have all informations about where all these people are, be it Mark Barita, Ayabacho, and others that I've forgotten.
Sako, who is now
exactly. So they know them, they know their family. Why don't you use the avenue of even the president that you have arrested? Tell me that no. Let's talk as brothers and sisters that we used to be. What has gone wrong? They give their point, you give your own point, and we look for an equilibrium, even in the presence of a mediator, if possible. I think those we should usually be looking at those voices that can carry, because those guys are having those guns. Not why are they taking it? Surely some people are giving it to them. Meaning that there are those people who have the voice, or who have those powers to tell them that do this. So if we know that these are the people who have the power to tell them that do this, why don't you go and meet those people and say that what people are doing, or it is not beneficial? I don't think that any honest Anglophone from those two regions can be happy with the current situation that is in those two regions.
Politicians close to the government.
I, for example, I cannot go to my village, which is Ndu. You think I'm happy? Or I'll be encouraging some of those people to hold guns? No. So if actually we really want the peace, or we really wanted to put an end to this crisis, we could use those avenues.
Politicians close to the government have been saying that it is abnormal, it is not logical for the government, the legitimate government, the president of the republic, the prime minister, and other authorities, minister of territorial administration, to come and sit on the same table with those who have been qualified as terrorists, with Dr. Sako, Ayabacho, Mark Barita, Ayuk Tabe, Penterens, and all the others who have been qualified as terrorists.
Mr. Babila, there is a statement that the head of state used to say that that phrase is good in French. He says, "Je suis un mendiant de la paix," meaning that peace is something he holds to. If actually he was seeking that peace, as he is saying, I don't see why he cannot sit with those people. Or if he doesn't want to sit himself, maybe he's afraid of that, I don't know why, he can those people, instead of creating or appointing those members of those commission, he could have given them powers or the possibility to meet these people and talk with them, because those are the people giving those orders. You remember when they were ghost town, people would decide to stay home on a Monday. Who is asking them to stay home? Surely somebody is giving them that instruction. So look for that person and you talk with that person. Okay, we have been leaving them aside, using other avenues. Today is 4 years. Has it brought back the peace? I think we should be conscious and say that and put things as they are. We have failed. Now we should not be thinking of wasting money which we don't even have. We are confronted. The people in those regions have are now at two crises. Would they be concentrating in fighting the independence war, or would they be concentrating in fighting the sanitary war? So you see that we are wasting time and money for nothing, whereas the solution is there.
Barrister Tamfu Richard, member of the Cameroon and Nigerian Bar Associations, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Babila.
Thanks, dear viewers, for staying with us. Goodbye.